Solar winds swept clean this planet 4.5 billion years ago. Earth thrived. Its natural elements helped it to flourish, and its bounty was for all to share. Then a life form of superior intelligence evolved, and for a while lived in harmony with the Earth. But paradise has been put into jeopardy. The motives are irrelevant. The consequences, severe. The remedy is written. The elements of life are clear. In this edition, we tackle a deadly insect infestation called Phylloxera with the latest remote sensing infrared imaging techniques in the hopes of saving a $6 billion wine industry from collapse. 30 years ago, there were just 200 golden lion tamarin monkeys left in the world. Thanks to the efforts of the World Wildlife Fund, that number's climbed to 1,000. But while this battle's been won, the war is far from over. British scientists think they've discovered why smokers look older than non-smokers. While we already know that smoking is harmful to the environment and to our health, this may be the first real proof that it also ages the skin at an alarming rate. And changing environments to suit our own needs seems to be an age-old pastime, and nowhere has it been more evident than at the World Ice Golf Championships in Greenland. But first, Louisiana's Delta region is a national resource providing much of America's shrimp and other fish products as well as oil and natural gas. But many of the wetlands that serve as spawning grounds for its major fish crops are rapidly disappearing. What makes the situation even more striking is that other parts of the same shoreline are actually growing. It's this dual set of circumstances that has caught the attention of geologist Doug Rickman from NASA's Stennis Space Center and Louisiana University's Oscar Hugh. The focus today is the part of the coast where mud is accumulating and forming new land. The mud is sediment from rivers which flow into the Gulf, but why it's washing ashore in certain areas and not in others is not well understood. That's why Hugh also leads expeditions into the Gulf itself. The ocean floor in this area is basically a broad, featureless plain of sediment deposited by the Etchapelia River, a major branch of the Mississippi. Using a variety of techniques, Hugh and his colleagues map the muddy bottom to determine the patterns by which sediment moves and land is gained. And as the environment changes through leveeing and other man-made methods, serious consequences are occurring in these parts. This scanner, called CAMS at NASA's Stennis Center, provides another perspective on the problem. When installed on a Learjet and flown over the study site, CAMS produces imagery which, with Doug Rickman's expertise, clearly shows a growing delta at the mouth of the Etchapelia. The yellow areas are exposed mudflats. The images at the top and bottom of the screen are of the same area 1 year apart. Rickman illustrates with this geologic map of the state that sediment-rich waters from the Mississippi being channeled down the Etchapelia are helping form this new delta. The problem to the east near New Orleans is that the old delta regions levied off from the Mississippi to prevent flooding are dying. The goal is to reverse this trend, or at least prevent further damage by better understanding sediment transport. This information could have applications in other coastal areas around the world and provide an important model for dealing with rising sea levels should global warming occur. Studying Louisiana's delta, NASA and LSU teaming up to preserve an important national resource. This baby golden lion tamarin represents a great hope for the survival of the species from extinction. Its birth brings the wild population of the species to 1,000 for the first time in decades. Within months, it's hoped the infant will be independent, living with its family group in the trees and eating fruit and insects. In the early 1970s, due to habitat destruction and capture for pets, there were only a few hundred left. The Golden Lion Tamarin project, supported by the international conservation organisation, the World Wildlife Fund, is a remarkable success story. That's because increasing the populations of animals on the verge of extinction isn't easy. The tamarins are only found in the Atlantic forest in Brazil, and the destruction of this habitat is a major threat. After the forests of Madagascar, the Atlantic forest is home to the world's most endangered vegetation. Once, the lowland Atlantic forest in the state of Rio de Janeiro covered an area about the size of Egypt. Now, less than 2% is left. Along the coast, the forest has been cut down for resort development, while further inland it was cut for agriculture and cattle pasture. That's why the conservation operation concerns itself not only with preserving the endangered animals of the forest, but the entire forest itself. The local community has become involved in protecting its unique tamarins, and an education centre has been built in the Poco das Antas Biological Reserve to help visitors learn about the forest. The program works intensively in local communities with remaining forest fragments. The new target is for 2,000 animals in the wild, but with only 25,000 hectares of forest left for them to live in, that may no longer be possible. Local landowner Luis Nelson felt that something needed to be done, and that's what motivated him to turn his farm into a protected area, with help from several non-government organizations. Luis felt he had a responsibility to act for a better future and for a better quality of life for the next generation. Ecotourism initiatives also allow groups to follow researchers who track the animals into the reserves. And 140 zoos around the world are involved with the Brazilian government in a joint captive breeding program which will release golden tamarins born in zoos back into their natural habitat. With continued support, future generations of both the global and local community will be able to share the delight of seeing these beautiful creatures in their unique forest home. It's no secret that smoking ages the skin. Smokers have paler complexions and their skin looks thicker. And it's thought that for every 10 years of smoking, the face ages by 14 years. By the time a smoker reaches their 40s, they have facial wrinkles similar to those of non-smokers in their 60s. Now, though, scientists at St Thomas's and other hospitals in London have found out why. Skin specialist Professor Young and his team have been investigating the effects of sunlight on skin by exposing groups of volunteers to ultraviolet light. When the team examined the results of their tests, they discovered that some volunteers had unusual amounts of a gene responsible for a skin enzyme that breaks down the skin's elasticity. It was previously thought that smokers appeared to age faster because chemicals in cigarettes increase the body's own production of damaging chemicals. The new findings suggest that a gene has been responsible for this all along. Once this gene is activated, protein is manufactured by the cells with a specific task of breaking down collagen. Professor Young says it's possible the gene is normally dormant unless activated by excessive sunbathing, artificial ultraviolet radiation, or smoking. While the results of his tests are now being studied and confirmed by other scientists, the bad news seems to be that although the effects of smoking on the skin might not be seen for decades, the results are irreversible. Even if smokers quit by their mid-30s, the wrinkles will most probably remain. This is the Napa Valley, home to America's most prestigious wine growers. Vineyards here produce the fine Chardonnays, Pinot Noirs and Cabernet Sauvignons that help put the Californian wine industry on the international map. But lurking beneath the surface of these green fields are tiny parasites called Phylloxera that threaten the very roots of the $6 billion industry. As Phylloxera feeds, fungus and bacteria enters and eventually kills the plant. Infrared aerial photography taken over a 5-year period reveals Phylloxera's devastating effects. Dead areas show up grey. Images like these help farmers see current damage, but it doesn't provide enough information for future planning. Growers need better tools. NASA's remote sensing technology is such a tool. It detects for the presence of stress in the plants before the growers are ever likely to see it themselves, and that offers them a glimpse into the future. The Robert Munderby Winery was interested in trying this new technology, in looking up to the sky, beyond the horizon, and into space. NASA scientists at the nearby Ames Research Center have been developing remote sensing technology to study the Earth's surface using aircraft and satellites. And for the past 10 years, NASA has been adapting its remote sensing for more commercial uses. NASA's Joan Salute heads the GRAPES project. Her team includes participants from Ames, Munderby Winery, and several of California's leading universities. NASA contacted 4 different wineries in the area and explained the project they were planning. Munderby was the one who put their hands up and said, "We want to do the same thing." An 11-acre test site was blocked into sections with healthy, moderate and severely infested vines. Handheld instruments were then used to measure chlorophyll levels, which is a barometer of the plant's health. Leaves were taken to the lab at Ames for scientists to conduct both a spectral analysis and chemical analysis to see how the leaves differ. Field and laboratory data provides a baseline for each level of infestation. Scientists estimate chlorophyll levels and use an airborne scanner to gather information on thousands of plants. Like infrared photos, the resulting images indicate where the vines were dying. But these images can also warn growers of where the bugs are just beginning their attack. Monitoring the insect infestation is one thing. Doing something about it is another. There are still no chemical agents that will prevent the spread of Phylloxera, but fortunately, nurseries are growing roots which are resistant to the tiny bugs. Many popular grapes like Chardonnay or Pinot Noir would easily fall prey to the underground pests if they were grown on their own roots. Wine growers get around this problem by having nurseries graft or splice resistant stocks to the fruit-bearing portion of the plant. Munderby Winery decided to remove the affected vines and replant new ones, with healthy and resilient roots in their place, re-energized. Rather than just having the feeling that the infestation was spreading, the growers were able to pinpoint the size and direction of any further destruction. However, in hindsight, the decision to uproot half the field and not 3/4 of it was ultimately a mistake, as part of what was left was found to be useless. Had they ripped out more of the field and replanted sooner, they would have had a full crop harvested sooner as well. On the other hand, thanks to modern technology, at least there's still an industry worth speaking of. And I'll certainly drink to that. At the heart of the international business world, a haven of peace has been set up for jet-lagged general managers and manic marketing executives. It's called the Mind Gym. Regis runs a worldwide network of fully furnished, staffed and equipped offices across 50 countries. Realizing that coffee and cigarette breaks were not the answer for pent-up executives seeking solace, the developers of the Mind Gym aim to provide a soothing alternative break from the stress of work. Relaxing on a massage chair under aesthetic blue lighting with earthy sounds, including a waterfall, helps to clear the mind for a few minutes and alleviate stress. Recent converts to the Mind Gym believe it's important to just switch off and enjoy some physical relaxation before returning to the office re-energized and ready for more work. The Mind Gym is proving popular and could improve productivity in the workplace. The consensus among those who regularly use the gym is that giving up 5 or 10 minutes to relax is enough to get you in the frame of mind to want to work again. And the concept behind the name Mind Gym is to allow people to realize that there's now a breakout area that concentrates on the mind rather than the body. It's a patrol unit unlike any other. 5 endangered Sumatran elephants and their handlers, or mahouts, trekking through some of the world's toughest terrain in the Gunung Luza National Park in northern Sumatra. The park itself encompasses nearly 2.5 million hectares of tropical rainforest and is the only place on Earth where 4 of the world's most spectacular animals, the orangutan, rhinoceros, elephant and tiger, can be found living together. But the park and its rare animals are under threat. In recent years, human encroachment around the park's boundaries has resulted in massive land clearing, illegal logging and poaching within the park itself, activities that call for swift action by the authorities. Set up 2 years ago by the European Union and the Indonesian government, the Elephant Patrol has become an effective unit in fighting the illegal logging and the loss of natural elephant habitat. The population of Sumatran elephants has plummeted to less than 600, and researchers believe the orangutan could disappear forever in just 10 years' time. According to Badrun Irfan, station manager of the Elephant Patrol, the unit is very effective in stopping the poaching and illegal logging because they can quickly get through the thick jungle to the location itself. Officers can easily confiscate and destroy the ill-gotten logs, and they feel much safer on the elephants as many people are still afraid of them. The national park authorities have become increasingly frustrated as efforts to prosecute the businessmen behind the logging have failed, but there has been some success. Illegal logging within the park's boundaries has been reduced, and that's due to the vigilant work being done by the Elephant Patrol Unit. Fortunately, the surrounding area is very suitable for these patrols, flat, natural elephant habitat, and the animals can access areas that vehicles and boats cannot. When the unit was commissioned 2 years ago, there was heavy logging right up the Bezitung River. Now it's almost completely stopped, although the patrols of the river continue in earnest. And according to Mike Griffiths, co-director of the Luza Development Project, in some paradoxical way, it's possible to say that the tame elephants are doing their bit to protect the wild Sumatran elephants. It's a tough job, long hours, oppressive heat, thick jungle. But at the end of the day, there's something to look forward to. A long cool bath and a good scrub. This is the Uummannaq Fjord, 1,590 kilometers inside the Arctic Circle, and site of one of the world's most unusual sporting events. When translated into English, the name Uummannaq means heart-shaped, and at around the same time each year, crowds and competitors gathered on the heart-shaped fjord for a championship event like no other. In sunny conditions and relatively mild temperatures of -8 degrees Celsius, participants from over 30 countries, including Denmark, Britain, the United States, Germany, South Africa and Greenland, are eager for the chance to win over $1 million. They're also strangely excited about playing on one of the most difficult golf courses in existence. The third annual World Ice Golf Championship is finally underway. The course consists of 9 holes marked out between the glaciers, the longest being 430 meters. Competitors are expected to complete 4 rounds of the course without getting frostbitten before they make it back to the clubhouse. Deep snow and difficult weather conditions were to blame for the fact that none of the golfers were able to score a hole-in-one, according to the Greenland Tourism Agency, who organised the annual event. A hole-in-one is worth $1 million US, and also the main reason why most of the competitors brave these difficult elements in the first place. But simply finding your ball is a major achievement in these parts.
Thank you. How did that hide during all the rest of that?
As the second and final day of competition drew to a close, South African Sean Cullen found himself in 3rd place on 169, while Tom Farrell of the United States ended up in 2nd place with a score of 167, thanks to some nifty strokes like this one.
I'm still just a poor bastard from Colorado.
The American was still in good cheer despite failing in his attempt to win the $1 million prize. By day's end, Danish ice golfer Annika Østberg had won the competition with a final score of 157. Not only had she retained the title she won the year before, but also finished 10 shots ahead of her nearest rival.